Do you think quantum technology is a threat to Bitcoin?
No doubt. I have the deep conviction that superquantum computers are actually already live. The risk actually is even bigger because it puts at threat not just Bitcoin from a value, but the Bitcoin network. If Bitcoin goes down, then everything else goes down. We are maximum 3 to 5 years for it to be fully disclosed. Let's prepare for a doomsday scenario.
Ladies and gentlemen, viewers of the Base Show, we have a very special guest, one that I'm very happy to be seated with. He's not only the top 30 influences voice in blockchain, but he's one that's building a platform to literally democratize the access to wealth. Today, we have Mamadou, the founder and CEO of Utribe/Ubuntu. Welcome, Mamadou, to the Base Show.
Thank you very much for having me, Sahib. It's a pleasure and an honor.
It's my honor, Mamadou. It's my honor.
Thank you.
I looked up the meaning of Ubuntu, and I'd like you to shine some light on that because it's a unique name in the English world, but where you come from, it has a very deep and beautiful meaning. Please tell us more about what is Ubuntu.
Sure, thank you very much. So Ubuntu means I am because we are. It's literally an implicit global declaration of interdependence, right? So when you say Ubuntu, it brings to hospitality, it brings to generosity, it brings to shared prosperity, it brings to acknowledging that without others, I lose meaning.
Wow.
Right? It's actually also one of the most ancient words known to humanity since Africa is the cradle of mankind. And even if you go further, Ubuntu comes from Abba Netu. Abba, what you think in Aramaic, also even in Arabic, it means from, right? And Netu is the word that you would see in ancient Egypt, Kemetic, at the time of pharaohs and etc. And Netu comes from Neterus. And Neteru is the word that gave Natura, nature.
Wow.
Right? And Neteru at the time of ancient Egypt means the gods, all the divine gods, right? The god of the moon, the goddess of the moon, god of the sun. And basically, Abanetu Ubuntu means the divine creations of the gods that we are, right? And as you kind of, words carry meaning, they say at the beginning was the word and was the verb, right? So for choosing Ubuntu is reminding all of us that we can only get out of this together,
right? And
we can only rise together, which is also why we have this tagline, Together We Rise. Because ultimately, you were referring to blockchain. What is it really? Blockchain is the restoration of sovereignty in a decentralized way at individual level. So it restores your divine attributes where you contribute to the collective as nodes and so on, right? So the word Ubuntu is actually really how do we execute this? And I'm of course a strong believer, and that's why we chose this name, right? Blockchain and Web3 has created a kind of a very unique and unprecedented wealth transfer, right? But it's also could go much further because you only have 400 or 500 million people really involved into Web3 out of a population of 8 billion. How do we bring the other 7 billion people into this ocean of opportunities? But that does not do a yo-yo where you can lose everything tomorrow, but that kind of builds straight, sustained wealth and build generational wealth that the Gen Z, the D-Gens or whoever will be able to transfer to their children and children's children.
So, that is a very impactful name. But how would you explain what Ubuntu does or offers to a auntie at a vendor shop?
Very simple. I will tell her, first of all, she has the possibility from her phone to buy gold, and she would own a digital certificate with that gold that belongs to her that she can claim anytime, and that can be dropped at our doorstep. Second, I would tell her that, or him, that most of if you're in emerging markets, even now in Europe, right, or in developed markets, it is the best performing asset in the world this year.
Hands down.
And very few people have a chance to buy it.
Yeah.
Now, for the first time in history, it's available at the palm of their hand below $1 for anyone who wants to play and who want to benefit from this growth. Now, before, you could get, gold ring and earring, but you wouldn't know if it's gold. You could lose it, somebody should stole it from you. But now it's safe, stored in a vault, in your name, and you can pass it to anyone, anytime, and benefit from the rise of it. And you can just take a portion of it because one gift gold is backed by 1 milligram of gold.
Right.
Right? And which is equivalent to 12 cents. It's an unprecedented chance for the mom and pop, the shop owner, whatever, to basically have that one asset that has had value across history, across civilizations, at the comfort on their mobile phone from at any time, anywhere. And all the struggles they had to get a small credit, to get a small loan, they would be asked a myriad of questions, and most of them may not have a bank account.
Right.
So where do they start? But now with that piece of gold sitting on their phone, gift gold, I don't need to know who you are. I don't need to know where you are. I don't need to know how much you earn. I don't need to know who your grandma is. We can lock on your phone the wallet, and then I give you a collateralized lending, meaning against if you have $100 of gift gold, now I can give you $50. And you go and do your shopping, or you buy the goods you need to go and sell to the market.
Mamadou, you are building a platform that's really literally giving access to investing into natural resource like gold, a digital, an asset class that you're bringing to, let's put it for a better lack of words, on-chain.
Yes.
Right? And of course, when one invests, even if it's a $5, $10, or $100, they're investing their hard-earned money. The biggest thing is trust.
Yes,
How are you facilitating the trust factor? Why does one, or why should one, trust Ubuntu? Where are these gold vaults, where are these certificates being issued from? How do we know this is not going to be stolen? What sort of safety trust do we have there?
Thank you. Those are excellent questions. First of all, we're regulated.
Okay.
In Europe under MiCA,
Fantastic.
which is the toughest jurisdiction for regulation. It gives a stamp saying that the most trusted entities in some of the most trusted jurisdictions have done their work in reviewing each and every step of what we do before they granted us permission to bring it to the customer. Why? Because their role as regulator is to protect the end users.
When was this?
And we've passed through that stage and we got the license, right? And we should get our VARA license, which is for the UAE, that is also linked now, moved onto the supervision of the central bank from next year, probably within the next 2 or 3 months.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
So across those regions, we have proven. Some of the most gold-backed tokens today got delisted out of Europe from most exchanges because they were not regulated. We are. And we took the time, and it takes a long, long time and a lot of processes to go through those hurdles because we want anyone on the planet to know that, yes, we've done anything necessary to protect your interest as a customer. Second, the gold, it's stored in Zurich, Stuttgart, Copenhagen, Dubai, and Singapore, and as we extend. And the most, those are all private regulated vaults, right? That report every day how much gold there is in their vault and how it's actually managed.
Right.
So that you have that level of comfort. Those are nuclear-proof gold vaults, right? And some are linked to Brinks, to some of the biggest securities companies in the world.
Right.
So, and you can claim your gold at any given time above a certain volume.
Okay.
Meaning that it's not just a digital certificate and you never see the gold.
Yeah.
If tomorrow you say, I want my gold to be delivered in that particular place, we work with the best logistics companies in the world through proxies and through partners that will deliver it at your doorstep, provided you can do the KYC.
Wow. Okay.
That's the big difference also. The third thing is the gold is audited, right? We work with some of the best, the top 3 digital asset audit firms in the world who do digital and physical audit of the gold and report so that people know that the gold is there and that it's been allocated to the customers. And we go even further because we can also verify on-chain and physical.
It's public.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So, and in that sense, that's why many have tried, very few have succeeded.
And why you? As in, shine some light on how long have you been on this journey and what is your background? What out of, amongst everyone else, what brings this success to bringing that, being one of the few to obtain this license to Ubuntu?
Thank you. It's important to also note, I have more than 20 years experience in investment banking in some of the top institutions, global finance institutions in the world.
Right.
I'm one of those renegade rebel who have mastered traditional finance, but understood its limitations,
right,
and went into decentralized finance, a bit like Robin Hood, trying to give a chance to those who didn't have one at the beginning.
Right.
But with that experience that I built, first I started my career with KPMG in Paris.
Okay.
So auditing and verification and analysis and making sure that everything is on T, I got it at the very early days of my career after I finished my master's degree in finance, right? So that alone was a very, very good preparation. I was from a World Bank, IFC, and I invested in telecom media technologies. I made the first investment in the world in mobile payments, way before, while people were still writing checks, and still are, right? And I was also managing director for GE, General Electric, in charge of investment and project finance across all the subsidiaries of the group. So along my career, I've had a chance to build to be involved in some of the most prestigious projects on the planet, some of the most advanced technologically. And two of my investments, actually, one became unicorn, one got listed on the New York Stock Exchange. So I have a good understanding of both traditional finance and decentralized finance. And I became a champion for decentralized finance as the next iteration of where finance should go, right? So, and we started this whole venture. It didn't happen overnight, right? 5 years ago, we were starting this whole journey about building the next generation of Web3, while people were pushing, meme coins, etc., and shit coins. I'm sorry to say that. We have been consistent over the years, understanding that the future of decentralized finance will be real-world asset tokenization. People were laughing at us in the beginning. Why? Because everybody was interested in 100x, 50x, 1000x. And coming from finance, I knew this was just
a phase,
short-lived, and there was a lot of speculation and a lot of scams, right? And for me, it wasn't fair to the customers, right? You hype, you pump a token, and then suddenly you pull the rug, or everybody disappears, and those who came last finally get hammered. We build to last. We can't, and for us, we also understood that to build something of that magnitude, of that precision, and that comprehensive would take time, but it also would require focus. So when financiers, when the top people in Web3 engage with us, I think we've gained some respect. It took us a while to go to market. Why? Because we wanted to get it right, not just rush and back our goal with ETFs that are 10 times over encumbered.
Precisely.
Not just rush and say, okay, there is gold somewhere that doesn't exist. Right? It took me that long it took me 20 plus years to build my reputation, and the last thing I want to do is to risk it over claiming something that is not true. And the trust I've built within decentralized finance and traditional finance is also because when you do things the right way, it may not pay off immediately, but in the long run, people will see it. Build it and they will come.
You've always preached the long-term game.
Yes.
You've always preached the long-term game. I've read that, I've seen that across. But that's very interesting, and it goes to show the confidence of the fact that these aren't some new kids on the block that just rode the wave or riding the wave, right? And it takes years of precision, takes years of experience, takes years of reputation building.
Yeah, there's a reason why Mercedes, BMW are still standing over centuries. is because they took the time to build fine and best-in-class engineering,
Yep.
right? So that the car doesn't break the next day, right? And that ultimately is also what will create trust. We should not forget, DeFi is an industry based on trust. For too long, it has been an industry based on hype, promoted by people who are trusted. Now it should become an industry based on trust, promoted by product that are tested.
Wow, well said. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense,
Right?
actually.
And then that's why we focused on the product.
When did you stumble upon, in this whole journey, when did you stumble upon on blockchain though?
Stumbled on blockchain, wow, 8+ years ago.
Okay.
Almost a decade ago, actually. Right? I was working on setting up a venture capital fund. That would be blended finance, right? So combine financial and social return with, anyway, that was a long story. And then I realized one thing, as I was, I did have quite a network, of course, and a track record. But then I realized, the problem of finance today is that it's an old boys club. And it's not the reason why I got into finance in the first place. I got into finance as I was a student because I was hoping to use it to liberate people, to make sure that we could access shared prosperity. But ultimately, as you realize that it's a small club, and then I came into this whole centralized boys club, right? Which I was somehow kindly invited in, but somehow not always welcome. Because indeed, I wanted change, I wanted progress, I wanted disruption, because ultimately, progress only has value if it's shared by everyone, right? So, a rebel within the machine, and then came Bitcoin, started understanding, read the white paper 10 years ago through a friend, and then I realized blockchain is the key for the finance that would lead to shared prosperity. Why? Because you don't depend on a central entity or authority who's going to decide who, when, what, when. Because it relies on a distributed collective of nodes who are unbiased, that provide data that can be untempered, and where anybody can come and play with no barriers like there was before. Right? People had been talking about financial inclusion for decades. Point was, I'm from Africa. Banks have been there for 200+ years. You're from India, right? Banks have been there for 300+ years. 15 years ago, there was only still 15% of the population who had a bank account. Something wasn't working. Now suddenly, there's blockchain, there's Bitcoin. That money that does not depend from that one central entity where everybody can play, buy a Satoshi, buy a Bitcoin, and then you can have smart contracts with Ethereum where you have, and suddenly you can play from your phone without nobody's authorization. That was, for me, the beginning of the new world, the new financial system. And I made a point to bring all the knowledge I gained from traditional finance that makes it resilient, structured, etc., without taking all the flaws that made it biased, exclusive, and so on, and bringing in, right, the promises of decentralized finance that propose financial freedom for all.
I'm just, I smile because I am thinking about the debate Peter Schiff and CZ had a couple of days ago. And I guess, you're at that junction of belief where you're really trying to merge the two assets, or at least understand that Bitcoin has value for a particular reason, and you just mentioned all of them. If you were moderating that session between CZ and Peter Schiff, where do you stand? And what are your viewpoints between what they had to say about gold and Bitcoin?
First of all, why not gold and Bitcoin? Why the narrative has always been gold or Bitcoin?
Absolutely.
First question. Second question, the answer is in the question. When Bitcoin called itself digital gold, it implicitly acknowledged the supremacy of gold.
100%.
Third, Gold is a historical asset that is the backbone of the financial system. Bitcoin proposed a new financial system, right? But if you want to transition to the new financial system, you can't throw the baby with the bathwater, because whether Bitcoin want it or not, everybody knows gold, trust gold, respect gold, right? Yeah. And think of this, the best elite troops of some of the top army in the world, in your survival kit, they give you an ounce of gold. You know why? Because they know wherever you're going to go, you, with that ounce of gold, even if you're in the middle of a Congo basin or in the jungle in Amazon, that ounce of gold will bring you back home. Yeah. That's the power that gold has. You can't erase it overnight. The power that Bitcoin has, it's autonomy. It's decentralized. You don't have to carry it everywhere you go because it's immaterial. Yeah. But now, I can do the same with gold when I tokenize it. That was my point. I bring all the advantages of tokenization. I keep the security and the structure of the value, of the intrinsic value of gold, and I make a token out of it. That is a digital certificate of ownership for which you can claim the actual gold at any given time. And yes, Bitcoin has had a meteoric rise. It did also has a lot of volatility. We shouldn't ignore that. The volatility of gold is nowhere near. So gold prevents you from heart attacks. Right?
Make you sleep well at night.
Make you sleep well at night, right? It might not kind of make you becoming 1,000x overnight, but you know you'll have wealth that you can pass on to your kids because it has gained 1,300% or since 2000. It's the best performing asset on the planet today, and it has gained 100 and something percent. Bitcoin did rise too. So my point is, why gold against? Why not both? And even better, so you have a portfolio with an aggressive asset that is Bitcoin, and you have a portfolio with a stable but growing, and that will grow even much more in the future, that is gold.
You need to sit with Peter Schiff and CZ next time.
I did actually at some point. I know Peter well, and I'm sure, I wouldn't be surprised if both Peter and CZ came to the conclusion that I've been pushing
you need both.
More than 5 years, right? And who knows, maybe sometimes you'll hear Binance announcing that they're launching a Peter Schiff gold-backed token, right? Yeah. So, and look, I mean, even if I had to summarize, Bitcoin is fundamental to the Web3 and to the future of finance. But the future of finance cannot happen without gold. Yep. All we need is to modernize it. Last point. Yes, Bitcoin can make you rich. It could also make you poor overnight, especially if you are like those traders who over leverage, etc. 100%. Right? But gold will make you and keep you wealthy.
This is the key word that a lot of people in crypto and Web3 don't really understand, because they want zero or hero, right?
Zero to hero, or hero to zero sometimes.
Yes, so wealth preservation is actually one of the hardest skill one can acquire.
Yes, and it's a very good point you're raising here. Most of the crypto community are de facto by nature risk takers, right? It's make or break kind of thing. Yeah. So the funds they're putting in are funds that they know they might completely lose. Yeah. And it's like, okay, I'm going to the casino, literally, right? And if I get lucky, I'll hit 100x. Yeah. If I'm not, okay, I lost at casino. Yeah. The problem is that may be why crypto hasn't taken over to reach the Web2 community, the 7 billion people we've been talking about, because not everybody is willing to go and gamble their lives on a bet of 100x, right? Now, the beauty is, that's why I believe gold token and give gold is that bridge where you won't go and gamble, but chances are, based on history, that you won't lose money with it. And more on the contrary, in some cases like this year, you might perform much better than anyone else, right? So, and that's why we want to offer that to those who actually saying, oh, I lost everything in crypto. Did you know that 80% of people who have invested in Bitcoin since inception have actually lost money or based on a survey?
Not surprised.
Right? But Bitcoin has this beauty, the narrative, the hype, etc. And it's like we only hear about the FANG. Facebook, Apple, Netflix, Amazon, Google, and Nvidia. And all those entrepreneurs, like those 6-7 guys. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere. Have you ever wondered why? Maybe because there are not that many like that. But the fact that there are a few like that allows 10 million wannabe entrepreneurs to want to be like that one day. Bitcoin plays a bit that role.
Yeah.
Right? That's why so many shit coins have disappeared, so many meme coins have gone, and NFTs and things, they die.
Yeah.
But people play on greed, right? More than on fear, because that community has less fear. But let me step in the shoes of a Gen Z betting on some coins, right? What I realize that they don't really understand is, let's say, why put 100% on something that has 1% chances to go, or 0.1% chances to go 100x, while you could put 30%, right, or even 80% on it, and 20% that if you lose everything, you still have something to reinvest in the next 100x. So, and that's why within our wallet, we've built a digital wallet called the Utribe wallet, where we also provide financial literacy and digital literacy.
Interesting.
Because we do understand that, unfortunately, many people within that community are being manipulated or don't have the tools to effectively assess investment properly.
Yeah.
Right? The same way as you know, that book, Poor Dad, Rich Dad. You know, there are some very counterintuitive things that people don't do or should do to preserve their wealth, but they don't.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
So how do we also, and that's why for us, we don't want just people to become rich overnight and lose it the next day. We want them to build generational wealth, and we know that it comes with knowledge, it comes with education, it comes with financial literacy, but it also comes with digital literacy. So when you use the Utribe wallet, there's an AI tutor that explains to you how tokenization works. That also give examples, and soon will be able to help people copy trade other traders and so on.
Oh, interesting.
Because it is also a responsibility, right? Because some of those people have families and risk all their money and then put themselves in trouble. How could we avoid that? How could we make sure that they also pass the knowledge to their children or to their peers? Because once you give them the right assets, which we believe is gold and soon silver and all those digital real world asset tokenized, and you give them the knowledge, then you are sure for us that we have delivered on our mission to create equal access to opportunities, regardless to place of birth or wealth at birth. And that is for me critical, because nobody is really doing it.
Very impactful vision. Mamadou, I've heard you talk about the app, the Ubuntu wallet. How long have you guys been live, and what sort of traction have you guys generated so far?
Look, I mean, we reference in CoinGecko, CoinMarketCap. We've been listed on Bitmart, CoinStore. It was more like pre-test and feeling the market. But within a few months, we reached already more than $100 million trading volume.
Okay.
We've built a wallet, which is the Utribe wallet, that also helps people, because in our case, you can go anywhere, you'll know the price of Give Gold because it's pegged to the price of gold, since it is gold, right? So in that case, then people can just come on our wallet and buy Give Gold, right? Since the price is globally known anyway. But as they do that, the point was to give them an ecosystem to interact, right? Was to also build a wallet that has those functionalities that I gave, where first it's already very hard for people to understand Bitcoin, right? So if you don't support them in the process, you're only missing the point. So you have Give Gold, which is being traded. And next year, that's where we're really going to go actively to market. So within our wallet, it also has privacy, meaning we'll do the release of those privacy, which is also great for corporates and institutionals, which even for individuals, you don't want people to know how much you have in your wallet.
For sure.
So that's something also that we're releasing very soon. And it's a quantum enhanced wallet. So we're already preparing, we're future proofing so that we build greater trust and anticipate potential risk and have that ecosystem where people feel comfortable to engage into the Ubuntu, the Utribe ecosystem.
You are very passionate about technology and precisely AI as well, amongst everything else. And I have been finding the right person to ask this question. Do you think quantum technology is a threat to Bitcoin?
No doubt. I mean, the analysis have been done, it's known, it's a fact. And that is actually my biggest concern when it comes to Bitcoin.
Interesting.
And the risk actually is even bigger because it puts at threat not just Bitcoin from a value, but the Bitcoin network, right? And within the community, we call it Q-Day, right? And that's something that we need to be prepared for. And trust me, it's not just Bitcoin that's going to go down if that event arrives, right? So if Bitcoin, which is one of the most resistant network and more advanced than the traditional banking solutions, goes down, then everything else goes down. Yeah. So the threat is not Bitcoin, it's the whole system that would go down. And today, quantum computing have made massive advancements that we can't ignore. If out of, I think there must be 400 or 500 wallets out there, only 4 or 5 actually are quantum enhanced. We are one of them, right? And point is, you were talking earlier about wealth preservation.
Yeah.
All our narrative, structuring, strategy, technology is to make sure that people don't lose the fruit of such a hard work, labor overnight, and making sure they have their gold safe somewhere, their wallet protected, right? That they can claim their gold whenever they want, and that they're educated enough to be prepared to understand the world they live in, the risk that might be coming from it, and build resilience.
How can one be protected? Or you think it's just a matter of time?
About quantum,
Yes.
about Q-Day? Look, first of all, I have the deep conviction that superquantum computers are actually already live.
What timeline are we looking at?
No, it exists.
It's live.
I believe it is.
Okay.
One of the biggest thing that was actually preventing it to happen was what you call the noise, the quantum noise, right? So that has been, because with that, it creates a lot of inaccuracies, etc. But the problem of the noise has actually been solved. But people don't communicate about it, right? And indeed, quantum, it requires so much that, it might be owned at sovereign level, could be by China, also the US, possibly Russia and other superpowers who may not be using it, right? But I believe that we are maximum 3 to 5 years for it to be fully disclosed. But remember, if something is being disclosed in 5 years, it means that it existed before. Right? And what we're trying to do is, let's prepare for a doomsday scenario, right? And you have committees, and I'm part of a discussion group. People are really thinking about what solutions could be deployed. Are we going to fork Bitcoin so that we build something that is going to be more robust, etc. But at the end of the day, it doesn't start with just having a quantum enhanced wallet. You also need the network that is quantum protected, right? So we're working on a few solutions. We'll make some very interesting announcement. But as a bank today, or as a financial institution, wouldn't you prefer to have a quantum enhanced wallet?
100%. I mean,
right?
You're telling me...
And that gives you the privacy that you need to transact, and where your assets are in nuclear safe vaults. That's the kind of high level comfort, right? It doesn't mean we're perfect. It doesn't mean it's unbreakable, but it means we thought about it deep enough to give enough comfort to create that safe haven for those who want to preserve or create more wealth without seeing it destroyed overnight.
That is scary. Very scary.
I mean, it is to a certain extent. It's, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. The opportunity can be good or it could be bad, right? But the point is to be prepared.
Mamadou, what's the ratio of your portfolio? How much of it is in gold? How much is it in Bitcoin? Or other assets?
This is confidential, but definitely I have both.
I want to understand how bullish on which particular asset.
It depends on how aggressive you want to be,
Yeah.
right? So people tend to say, oh yeah, Bitcoin will go to 1 million.
Yeah.
Okay, it's possible,
Yeah.
right? I actually think it could happen.
Yeah.
But people don't really understand, and you have a lot of thumb-sucking, it will go, but they can't really explain why. There are reasons why Bitcoin could go to 1 million, and which are links to how much money printing is going to happen in particular, because there is a direct correlation between quantitative easing, inflation, and Bitcoin, right? Where you have seen historically where when more liquidity is created, then people either would use it and go and buy Bitcoin, or at least Bitcoin price would rise.
Yeah.
The other element is that unfortunately, Bitcoin is getting even more and more centralized. And when it's getting more and more centralized, because you have the flow of institutionals, BlackRock, Vanguard, Fidelity, corporates, and everyone now rushing to Bitcoin, now that it's gone back to an acceptable price where Bitcoin ETF buyers got in.
Yep.
Suddenly it's back at that level so that others can also get in. And then you have people like Michael Saylor and of MicroStrategy that is slowly being pushed out, so that maybe there will be more Bitcoin, and that goes into a very small amount of hands. But when it's like that, it also means that price can be easily manipulated, right? It means that if there is an interest, then you can squeeze supply, and then the price will go up.
Yeah.
So that also is a possibility. And then you have, of course, the key elements with macroeconomic conditions, right? So you have the risk of the AI bubble, right? That is more than looming. You have real estate also is showing a lot of weaknesses, because the rate of delinquency into honoring mortgage real estate or commercial real estate rents has been astronomically high. It's probably one of the highest in history at the moment. So you have a convergence plus the geopolitics, right? A convergence of wars like Ukraine that kind of struggles to end. The Middle East, so you have different pockets. Venezuela now popping, Thailand and Cambodia. Somehow, so many conflicts that are looming that could tip the balance in a certain way and get people to think, oh, I'm going to need Bitcoin, or I'm going to need gold, right? Now, because gold is more distributed and less concentrated, then chances, because Bitcoin has a higher volatility, that it will go very high, right? It's people, and it's also easier to access. But the one thing that has always gained in terms of crisis as a safe haven is gold. That won't change, right? So that's why I tell people, if you want to be future-proof, give gold as tokenized gold, and maybe get a bit of Bitcoin, and depend how aggressive you are in wanting to bet it all.
I was actually going to ask you about your 2026 outlook. It seems like you've answered a majority of that. And I mean, if there's anything else you want to add, because, of course, we have just seen the Fed rate. We've seen, a lot of, we're all seeing all this different scenarios that could perhaps take a downturn. I feel a lot of people right now are scared because of this uncertainty or just lack of clarity. What in your personal, what would be your gut feeling?
So for me, it's, I think 2026 is going to be a critical year where a lot of the weaknesses in the traditional system will start show to people, right? And where the cracks within the system might be the first step of the building starting crumbling, right? That's what some would call controlled demolition. Right. Right. But clearly, I think there is a consensus. When you see JP Morgan, BNY Mellon, all the, Bank of America, many of those things starting collateralizing Bitcoin for loans. It's telling you, okay, the biggest investment platforms and financial institutions platform are going to the very asset that they've been condemning to back their fiat.
Right.
Isn't that a proof of capitulation?
Actually,
Isn't that if you can't beat them, join them? Mm-hmm. But it also means a very important thing here. It means that isn't there any other asset that should be a collateral in real world asset? Why go all the way to the one thing that you've been criticizing and say, actually, I'm going to lend against that? So you're literally telling the world that you have nothing left as a credible collateral than the very thing that you've been criticizing. It means that whatever is available in real world asset besides gold, which is already be given, right? But are you going to do on real estate? Are you going to do on US Treasury bonds, which are being dumped, right? Are you going to do it on the dollar, which is losing value and being depreciated over time?
Yeah.
Are you going to be doing on shares, which are also going to, you can always, I think there is a global consensus that there is an AI bubble, right? What is left?
Very true.
Right? Why do you think central banks are the biggest buyers on the planet on physical gold? Did anybody really thought about that? Why don't they go and buy ETFs? I mean, there's a ton of ETF out there, right? It's easier. Just press on a button and then, because they know something we don't know. Did you know that, and that's one of the issues, the London bullion market, ETF market, is 8 to 9 times over encumbered. The COMEX in New York is 15, 16 times over, 12 to 15, I can't even remember, over encumbered. Do you know what it really means? It means that for 15 ETF, electronically traded funds, gold-backed ETF, gold ETF, who own the ETF, in case of a bank run, and if all of them claim it at the same time, only 1 out of the 15 will get it. It means that you've sold 15 movie tickets for only 1 movie seat.
Oh, okay. Makes sense.
So when I hear people say, oh yeah, let's tokenize everything, I'm like, okay, so are we going to put more makeup on a clown's face? Knowing that the beauty of blockchain is that it brings transparency, it brings accuracy, and you can't tamper the data.
No.
And now you're going to put a layer by saying, oh, because it's blockchain, it's safe, but what's underneath can't be relied upon. Are we stupid? I don't think we are, right? And I think we also have a responsibility not to see this movement for decentralization, for transparency, for rigor, for be kind of hijacked. Because if it is, then you get kind of served the same thing you didn't want to eat yesterday.
Right.
Just in a different format.
Mamadou, I want to ask you on this point. We talked about blockchain, we talked about the risk, we talked about the global, I'd say the threats in the global economy. I just want to focus a little bit more on blockchain. Ubuntu says, together we rise.
Yeah.
And right now we're talking about all the sorts of, I'd say the challenges, yet the dirty tricks that are being playing behind the scenes. How do you actually foresee a PvE situation when you say together we rise? Because blockchain is actually PvP, massive PvP, right? We're seeing the cabals, the concentrated wallets, or let's say these funds, or let's say a group of handful of people that have just been sucking from the retail. How do you envision Ubuntu to actually deliver on this vision of yours, together we rise?
I would love for you to explain a bit more this PvP and those concentrated wallets, etc., because the world needs to understand, and I'm not sure everybody is fully. So from there, I'll respond.
Yeah, PvP is generally saying person versus person.
Yeah.
Versus saying person versus everyone.
Yeah.
Right? Like PvP is net negative because we're fighting for the same piece of pie.
Yeah.
And you're obviously going to get somehow more than me if you have a particular angle or leverage or tool, right? PvE, on the other hand, is something like being able to enjoy the luxury or the opportunity of something that perhaps most of us, majority, I won't say everyone, because there's no world where there's everyone wins. So majority of them is actually propelling in success, essentially.
So here's the beauty, right? And thank you for the question. It's the question of the 1% versus the 99%. What if, for the first time in history, the 1% needs the 99% for its own survival? Let me explain. When the system is on the verge to collapse, because liquidity has tightened, one, because there is no more assets that can be brought through traditional method to fuel the machine. It's like a chimney. You need to put wood for it to burn and for the machine to turn, right? When printing money is no longer an option and you're going to have to go and look for it somewhere else, right? When for the whole industry, which is the producing industry, who manufactures stuff, cannot afford to not having customers and need customers healthy with the purchasing power so that the machine can keep on going. Remember the Marshall Plan? It wasn't philanthropy. It was, we're going to fund Europe and we're going to give them the purchasing power to buy our equipment, to borrow our dollars, to recycle it, so that we can sell and get our own economy post-war to survive. We are on the verge of a new, much more complex and exclusive Marshall Plan, but that is not driven by geopolitics. It might just be driven by technology. When the system needs liquidity, right? Where's the liquidity going to come from? You need personal savings. That has been what has been fueling the stuff. But personal savings somehow has been excluded through accredited investors rules, tons of regulation, brokerage that leave people out. Do you realize that today only 1 out of 2 Americans have access to the financial markets? Only 1 out of 2 Europeans, and in emerging markets it's like 10 to 15%, right? That's 800 million people. But 5.8 billion have a mobile phone. What does that mean? You need those guys to come and invest into your capital markets when everything collapses. You won't get them through your normal regulation. You're going to have to tokenize, fractionalize ownership of assets so that they can come and play and re-inject the little savings they have into the machine. But you solve 2 problems. Remember the wood into the fire, right? By bringing all those assets, you bring reasons to invest. Tokenized gold, tokenized real estate, tokenized silver, tokenized art, you name it. So you create a law of supply and demand. So when everything collapses, you need new assets, you need new investors. We are those people. And that's why I'm telling you, for the first time, it comes to a stage, and I can bet you on that, give it 5 years max, where Ubuntu, by nature, by hook or by crook, has to happen. Where one side, for its own survival, need everyone else. Where I am because we are. Mark my words. Why? Because I've learned, studied, analyzed, played, tricked, structured this system and understood, yes, you're going to have to tokenize gold since it's a backbone of the financial system. Now, let's look into this.
1 second. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take Mamadou's word, and this is what you've heard first on the Base Show. I'm going to take your word for this, and hopefully,
I bet you,
I am going to be part of this journey, and we will all somehow
together we rise.
Yes,
indeed. And that's where it also becomes very interesting, is that it means that anybody can be a micro-entrepreneur if you can tokenize anything. Your community becomes your funder. You don't need a bank anymore only.
Yeah.
I don't need to know your history. I'm part of the community. I have
And
an
that's
asset.
actually the beauty of blockchain.
Exactly. That's where technology changes the game.
Yes.
Right? That's why you can get you microcredit. That's why you want to launch an album, an NFT, whatever. Then that's why community, decentralized crowdfunding, and an asset, everything trustless environment.
Yes.
And that's where innovation will rise again.
Yeah.
That's where also, think of this, as an African, we live in a situation where $4 trillion GDP for Africa, 90 trillion GDP for the planet, but Africa's natural resources exceed 150 trillion. Now, what if I tokenize 10% of that, right? It's 12 to 15 trillion. It's 3 times the GDP, 3 to 4 times the GDP.
Yeah.
It changes economies.
Yeah.
That's why I'm telling you, Larry Fink is not stupid, right? Although I've said that years before him, it was obvious that we would get to a phase where everything needs to be tokenized because you need more assets, you need more liquidity in the system. And the risk, to your point, is, okay, are we going to put all of it again in the hands of a few? Or
distribute.
Well, that's why AI comes into play. Yeah. And we are at a crossroad as a civilization. And I think Elon Musk also shared this point. The problem of AI today, let's start actually with the good thing about AI today. AI is a huge equalizer, right? Before, with internet, you have highways of information, okay? Now, the problem with that information, it wasn't processed.
Yeah.
AI today gives to any citizen with a phone who wants to invest almost the equivalent of a Bloomberg terminal that was only reserved to financial institutions somewhere in Wall Street, in Zurich, in London, right? Suddenly, it has that equalizer effect. But also what it does, it is going to eliminate what actually has made the strength of trading. Why? Because the more you're going to be using AI, the less efficiencies you're going to have between financial markets. Why? Because if it automates taking advantage of efficiency, it's also going to automate reducing the inefficiencies.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
And therefore, it requires a different finance that is not fully speculative because it's algorithmic. So AI, because it's going to also maybe eliminate the middleman, that's what brings more efficiency. AI will be the ignition of an era of abundance in that sense, where you know, when it's science, medicines, etc., where, it'll go so fast that we'll find solutions you would never have been able to think of. The question is who has access to the outcome, right? And today, the risk we have is within AI, you gain huge productivity. Problem is, that productivity makes a lot of workers irrelevant. But who benefit that productivity? The shareholders, who are going to create much, much more value for themselves. True or not, right? And you have those who are going to be left on the side. But now that they have so much more value, thanks to AI, what would you do? You would invest more into AI, right? And more into AI infrastructure. And then what happens? You have a huge concentration of power and money into very small amount of hands. And when you have that, since AI is also getting more and more centralized with like all those trillion-dollar data centers in one spot, what does it really create? It creates also a thing where I can decide what you're going to think and not think and give you the information I want you to have because you only trust that one source of truth.
Yeah.
Isn't that a problem?
100%. Big problem.
How do you address that? And that's why blockchain, Web3 again, could be a balance
to verify.
To verify, not just that, but to distributed ownership.
Yes.
To fractionalize ownership of those shares, of those assets, and verifiable, right? But also where your data is on chain and you have sovereignty on it.
Yes.
Where instead of building ultra centralized energy, data, compute, storage in one spot, which also posed the question of single point of failure. And this is something we're working on, and you'll have good surprises. We'll make an announcement very soon. What about we build a distributed neural network?
Yeah.
Where actually the benefits of decentralized distributed energy, everybody has their own solar panel, they contribute to the energy, or their batteries, they contribute, and they get a piece of those revenues that were the trillions that were supposed to go into one piece.
Yeah.
But they contribute. They also, your phone has computing power capacity. It is more powerful than the phones that were sent, that were used, that the computers that was used to send the man to the moon in the 60s. Your laptop, your car now, who is literally a computer on wheels,
Yes.
right? What if, and there are solutions where you could contribute your computing power into a grid and you get paid for it,
Yeah.
right? Storage, you have decentralized, and Threefold is working on that. Christoph de Spiegeler and other people working on this distributed AI infrastructure. But only the one technology that allows that distributed AI infrastructure is the fact that you use Web3 blockchain for data validation, for data and pricing and compute, all that in a distributed network where you have, remember what I said at the beginning, you have your sovereignty back. And
Yes.
instead of becoming a product into the system, you are a co-creator of the system who has sovereignty into the ultimate outcome. And people are talking about this thing about, universal basic income. I hear some, and they said, oh yeah, people won't have jobs, but we can give them universal basic income. What does that mean? Are we stupid or what? Right? It means that basically that same group that's going to concentrate all the power, all the money, will say, oh, you don't have a job. Okay, I'll give you a minimum every month. But if you're not nice, I cut it. Or if you say something I don't like, I cut it. Where's your sovereignty? Where's your autonomy? And people might jump on it.
Yeah.
And they make you desperate and you'll say yes to it.
Yeah.
What if we had a choice now as a civilization, as a collective of brains, of talent, to say, actually, we want a piece of this and make it distributed. And because I get revenues from compute, I get revenues from my data, I get revenues from storage, I don't need universal basic income, right? And because I can tokenize, right, a particular element or get loan against immediate, right, against my asset or my token or my revenues that are clear, then I can also start my small business within my community and use AI for it. Yeah. This is the society I believe we should build collectively. And that's why Web3 has such a fundamental role. And that's also why we should not lose the very essence of what got people like me, at least, into Web3, which was empowering, which is together we rise. If we just fall into the greed game,
we would just be like anyone else.
Would be just a puppet who will be chasing the next
shitcoin.
Yeah, shitcoin. And without thinking. And then you fall in the trap and then you lost everything and then you're going to go and beg for universal basic income.
Yeah.
We're smarter than that, aren't we? Right? So, and that's where, once you have that one thing as a base to start, give gold, tokenized gold from as low as 1 cent available on any anyone's mobile phone. Think of it. If you had $1,000 of gift gold at the beginning of the year, you'll be sitting with $1,700 today, 11 months later, right?
Absolutely.
Right? And now from there, you could maybe buy a box that has decentralized storage that could contribute to other things, right? You could buy maybe a bit of Bitcoin. You could also say, okay, I need a flash loan on the back of the upside that I made to start this venture or this thing with this collective, and all my profits will be reported on chain and will be in tokens, so there's transparency. So I can even borrow more because I bring more transparency. And that's really the societal shift to which we are confronted as a civilization at this point.
Wow. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, as I said in the beginning of this show, technology, the right asset class, empowerment, economic development, society, social inclusive. This isn't a founder that is promising to build. This is a founder that's already set forth to build and has built traction. And I would like to say, guys, if you have the opportunity, please go ahead and try the Ubuntu wallet or load the Ubuntu wallet to be able to be part of this next upside where we all should and will rise. Mamadou, it's only been a pleasure and I've learned a lot on this show. I think we need more than an hour next time to unpack all of this knowledge and experience that you have, but it's been an utmost pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on Base Show again.
Thank you for having me. It's been a real pleasure.
Likewise.
Thank you.